hello guys. Welcome to the fifth podcast of Paradigm Unshifted, and we have got here the writer of one of the writers of TVF Pitchers season 2, and this is Shubham Sharma. Welcome to our channel. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. So honor.
So Shubham, how does it feel? Like your web series is being currently trending. It's being talked about all over the country. How does it feel to have successfully written one web series along with the others?
It feels really good. I've written shows before, but the response this has gotten has been very overwhelming, and there was a lot of pressure while writing this for all of us in the writers' room, and the way it has come out, I think we were not sure how people will take it, but it's been mostly positive.
It must be challenging, right? Literally wrote a sequel to something that is considered a classic right now. Like TVF
Yeah.
is like known by pitchers, and everybody has been waiting for like season 2 like since forever. It took 7 years for it to make. But one thing I noticed is like they have restructured their whole team or brought in new members and new writers. Weber Bundu was a cinematographer and a musician. He co-directed this season, right? So how did
Yes.
you like get on board, and how did Arnab like approach you, and what was the process behind writing it? And obviously
Okay.
you felt some pressure. So how did
Yeah.
it go?
So before I came on the project, the work was already on. They were like, it has been in the making for years. Back in the day, somebody else was writing it. Then things changed and stuff happened. Now, when so I was wanting to work with TVF for a while. I was freelancing as a writer. So a friend of mine had Vidit had read some stuff that I'd written before, set in an engineering college and everything. He was working on one of the shows with TVF. At that point. So I had spoken to him a couple of times and had shown my interest very keenly to work with TVF if there's anything. He passed on my contact to a creative producer at TVF. We had a conversation. Then my number was passed on to another creative producer. I thought this is a long process. Nothing is going to come out of this, but the associate creative producer on the show, Vivek, he reached out and he said we are making a season 2 of a show on Pictures, and
Amazing.
then there were some assignments that were given to me to come up with some storyline for season 2, some basis, some of that storyline, some screenplay was written, and Vivek read it. Mrinal, the other creative producer, he read it. Then they took it to Arnab, Vaibhav. They read it. Prashant was already working on the show. So then I came on board. Then we redid some of the stuff, rethinking, figured out some of the things, cracked a few things. So it's been a long journey.
Brainstorming, you
Then
can
other
say.
people, yeah, a lot of it, lot of it. And then Tala came on board, Garima came on board. A lot of people from TVF would come. We would narrate. They'd listen. Like it's a very collaborative process. People listen, give feedback on other people's script. So all that plus Vaibhav and Arnab were there all the time. Vivek was there. So uh, a very chaotic process, but everyone working very sincerely and passionately towards trying to create something uh, uh, near about perfect, because there was a legacy of season 1 to match there. It had been a long
Totally.
while, and season 2s generally don't get received very well, and so
Yeah.
extra pressure.
So like,
Thankfully,
sorry.
thankfully, just
Yeah.
turned out.
So, talking about the structure and the technicalities of season two, like what was, the source of inspiration of a storyline? Because ultimately, like it is about people struggling, regardless of whether you have achieved a position or not. Because ultimately, they are pitchers; they have to pitch. So, in order to do that, you have to have created a situation for them where they are stuck. So, what was the basis of that? Like, I believe that you focused more on the character arcs of these characters, where they how they react with the other people in a professional way, and amongst the three, their chemistry and all. I think you were focused on that more rather than the situations. So how was that? Yeah,
So, like the first time when I met Arunab, we had this conversation about what do you think Pictures is a show about? Is it about what they're making as a company, or is it about friendship? Is it about the interpersonal dynamics and everything? We talked a lot about this in the room as well. There were debates about showing the product, whether to reveal what the product is, etc., etc. What should be the focus of the story? Plus the startup ecosystem has changed a lot. When
yeah,
season 1 had come out, there was a lot of optimism back then in 2014, 15. That is what Arnab calls the first era of startup in India, and first decade. Then now the ecosystem has matured a lot. Like there is a
yeah,
dialogue
totally
also, the ecosystem has changed
right.
completely, which it has. And so there was a lot of optimism and naivety and goody approach back then. But the reality of it is not that, one is you have a dream, and the other is what happens when you pursue that dream,
Right,
which are
the maintenance
two.
part.
मतलब, one is dreaming and being able to start this dream, and that is a more magical, more cinematic story. After that is the part where reality hits. So this season was about reality hitting, but even in that, it's a story of hope, where you persevere and you uh, so the interpersonal dynamics, how they play out. We wanted to tell a story that any startup founder sees and feels that, yes, this is my startup story, this happened with me. So even somebody who runs an edtech startup, an e-commerce startup, a crypto startup, can relate with what is happening in the story. That was the idea, to cater to a tech startup's story, and stay true to the interpersonal dynamics that happen between founders, tech people leaving, co-founders leaving, differences,
Right.
issues with fundraising, office, investor pulling out, very real things
But
from the.
ultimately, you had to push them against the wall and pin them into a corner. Right. That was the basic idea of it.
I think the thought was survival. Survival was the keyword. That keeping a dream alive. That is the story.
Yeah. So one thing I noticed between the season one and season two is like the the level of seriousness one season brings. So there is like a comparatively higher humor in season one, and when I saw season two, I just binge watched when it got released. I just almost missed my office due to that. But what I noticed is there is a little bit of seriousness in. For example, in first episode, there is this title track playing called Jane De, where Bhati has just told Naveen that you have to upgrade yourself to whiskey, and there is like a I think 2 minute sequence where he just stands still, and that sequence is like shot very beautifully, because that's when I realized that the director is also the musician of this series, and I think that chemistry somehow matched that he wanted to put there is like a musical transition, you can say, where you show the character's transformation. So that reminded me of that leaving Caledon sequence from Dune, where there is like a moment, and the title track is playing. So what was the writing part of it? Did you like plan it, or was it like a conscious choice later on? Or how do you write these moments? Because I saw a lot of these moments in season two compared to season one.
This one particularly, there was a big legacy of "तू बियर है" कि "तू बियर है और तेरा काम
Right.
है बहना." It is something that stayed with audience and
Sorry.
that stayed with ears. So the thought was, because that is what represents the whole season one, "तू बियर है,"
Right.
and that is his journey.
Right.
So season 2, we wanted to matlab, take, so that was getting a seed round. Now you have to get a series A, stepping up.
Right.
What got you here will not get you there. So
Right.
I think Prashant cracked it first, was that तू विस्की है और तेरा काम है चढ़ना, तेरे जेडी में चढ़ना लिखा है.
Right.
तो वहां से थॉट आया था. उसके बाद ये था कि पहले we'll have to dismantle the thought of beer.
Right.
उसको because it is so stuck in the audience's heart, तो उसको shatter करना है. तो that we
Right.
do it through this character who Zixo का founder, not sorry Zixo का founder, Jatin Agarwal जो Zetec का
Right.
founder, चाहे उनकी play आई कमल
Right.
ऐसे भाटी भूल गए तो
Right.
beer
Right.
मैं beer हूँ मैं. So kind of trying to say कि अरे मतलब हर चूतिया बोल रहा है कि मैं beer हूँ. तो बियर का फिस बोतल से निकलने के थोड़े टाइम बाद ही खत्म हो जाता है. So Bhati first dismantles it, then the conversation comes to the counter, and so in season 1 when he's giving it, it's a very genuine pitch ki tu beer hai. Right now it's like Bhati is in a different state in life, Naveen has also matured. It's not that direct a pitch, but it's more building on what he had pitched earlier, since it's come up in the conversation. So he says कि अब level up कर, what got you here will not get you there. तो बहना बंद कर और front foot पे खेल, take matters in your own hand, सबको अपनी terms पे चला. और beer out whiskey in, और बोल के वो निकल जाता है. Now for something which मतलब which got you started to get a fundamental shift, you need to be able to process it. The script level पे था कि he looks at the glass, he's thinking, he takes it in his hand, he's considering it. He looks at the other logos of other companies कौन के founders हैं, उनके logos को देख रहा है, and then a mail comes from Appu की revised logo जो है वो अपनी company का logo देखता है.
One of the best sequences I've seen, that the company animation logo.
Yeah, so वो भी jamming में निकला था. It came after a lot of drafts. वो कहीं पे crack हुआ था एक conversation में कि things that have shaped humanity, inventions, तो fire, wheel and steam engine, and then Pragati. तो उसका belief है that the innovation he is building is something that will transform human society to that level. वो अपने लोगों को देखता है, दूसरी कंपनी के लोगों को देखता है, and then yeah. So this was what was there on script. The magic that Vaibhav adds to it with his music was everything that came later on. The music was there, which got added on edit. Then the lyrics and everything that he cracked. बहुत सपनों की किताब में अपमान का हिसाब होगा.
Right, that was one thing. So let's talk about the product. So in the first season, the product was just like a metaphor, and for anybody's dream. Basically, it was anybody's dream, and you got like 4 people working on it. Now you reveal the product on half. Like one of my videos is also on that. Like you just gave people a glimpse of what might be in the product, because ultimately it's tech. It's you are building a virtual tech out of it, and you have first, how did you name it Pragati? And like, was there any plan to reveal the product like throughout the series, or you just planned it to keep it as a metaphor by default and change it later?
So this is something that evolved as we wrote. Earlier there was a difference of opinion in the room. Some people believed we should tell the product because it is something the audience wants to know. पहले सीजन में बस इतना बताया था कि B2C है, एक जगह पे मेंशन होता है. There was another thought which was to reveal just the sector that the company is in, and third thought was to not tell anything. The pros in favor of telling was, of course, a gratification for the audience who wants to know.
Right.
The con was uh, it becomes a focus of people. People will judge the idea. People will judge whether or not it is a feasible idea. VCs will have a take on it. Founders will have a take on it, and the ecosystem is ever evolving. So it is something that might get dated. What is an innovative idea today might not be an innovative idea by the time the show releases, or in a few years down the line, etc., etc. The other idea was to reveal just the sector, but even in sectors, you see, at least in the Indian ecosystem, there is a wave that comes with. So there was a e-commerce wave, there was a
Right.
medtech wave, there's a Web3 wave, AI deep tech wave, food. Even that is something that might only be relevant for a while. The
Yeah.
third was the radical challenging idea to not tell what the product is at all. Just tell it's a tech product, it's a innovative product. And what is very common in every sector is happening, that online partners are partnering with offline players to take that thought and try and tell a story. It was we were not very sure how it will have turn out. It was only by writing and AI data सब जगह use हो रहा है, that kind of language which could be true for
You
any
went on with the
product.
trend basically.
तो to try and keep it eternal, मतलब वो हमेशा true रहेगा, plus everyone can relate, put their product as X.
Right.
Finally, I think that it flew with everyone, and it freed us to be able to focus on other things, because then that doesn't remain the focus. You can play on human emotions, interpersonal dynamics, VC founder dynamics, employees, early employees, which was the perspective this season, etc., etc.
Right.
Once you get over that, then the actual challenge of building a good drama.
Right. So, when you wrote this season, so you introduced a lot of new characters. First of all, one of the most impressive, Prachi Meena, and another is I forgot his name, Sikandar Khair's character. So Prabhas. Yeah. So, how did you write those characters? How did you bring those diverse, diverse in nature and characters? That one is like supposed to be trustworthy, but she's betrayed, but another is like born to be villain who steals your features and then promotes it as his own and all. So there were so many characters. For example, Ashish Vidyarthi sir's Casey, one of the most memorable characters in season 2. So was there any plan like you would bring situate characters according to the situation, or it just came with the flow?
So again, we start trying to be truthful to the actual journey that a founder at a startup or a startup's journey. You always have an investor, at least in the current venture capital scenario.
Right.
There is a very tricky relationship with the person who has put money, the investment manager, portfolio manager. They want you to grow, they want you to do well, but at the same time they have their own metrics to meet, their own goals. A founder's end goals may or may not be aligned. So there is a friendship, mentorship, but also a mistrust that plays out sometimes, so which is a natural relationship that we took and into the story. The layer that we added was a female VC, which is also now increasingly prevalent. That and with every sector there are competitors, early adopters. तुमने series A उठाया है, somebody has raised the series B, is a
Right.
step ahead of you, which is also true for in a
Yeah.
startup's journey. There will always be challenges. There will be someone who will copy your stuff, somebody who will take your idea, execute it better, somebody will raise faster than you. So that became Prabhas, that became Alpha One. And in the current scenario, जब हम online and offline player की बात कर रहे हैं, when we are talking about new businesses, there is a perspective of legacy businessmen, somebody who's been running, people who have been running their business for years and have been running it profitably, but don't get that glamour and look down upon, while startups with all the losses that they make are thought as cool and celebrated. तो ये एक thought था which मतलब the coolness with which startup is looked at can only first be bust by a guy like this who runs a traditional business. So that is where Casey's character comes in. A lot of it is drawn from actual legacy businessmen who have run businesses in our country.
Right. So let's talking about characters, you added a lot of them, but that this is probably the most commented thing. Like, what about Jeetu?
I don't think it is a decision that I've taken, so it is not something I should comment on. What I knew as a writer going into the show was that Jeetu is not there in the storyline, which was a storyline that was cracked, and the thought was that which is very true for tech startups, that the tech person gets, क्योंकि operations का person, जैसे food tech का operations cannot go tomorrow and do ed tech का operations. Very different things. The contacts you build, the network you run is of restaurants is not the same as GA. The tech person, however, is working on a tech stack जो हर जगह same है. So CTOs get poached a lot. They get a lot of money. Any tech person these days from a good college who is very proficient gets a lot of offers. Many CTOs stick also. I don't want to generalize it, but many of them get very good, better offers. And season 1 का भी पूरा जो story line है, तुम देखो, जीतू को convince करना है, जीतू की salary afford करनी है, जीतू की wife को convince करना है, जीतू के पापा को convince करना है. तो जीतू was always somebody who was who had one foot out of the door. So that goes forward in the storyline, and he's missed by the founders, he's missed by them, by the employees in the startup journey. That is the story we chose to tell. I think the conspiracy theories will get cleared out with time, because there are more shows that will come out. So I think.
So you are giving a hint to season 3.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying conspiracy theories get cleared out with time.
Perfect. I think people will get their answer. Yeah. So thanks a lot, Shubham, for joining in this channel. It was a very big honor, and really congratulations for your show being successful. And
thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
I just want to say that it was a group effort. It was a team effort. Everyone from the actors, a lot of it was improvised, nuance was added. Music played a lot of role in hitting a lot of beats. Editing, a lot of magic happened on edits. Scenes got moved around. Screenplay level issues got fixed when we sat on the edit table. Director, showrunner, Arunab's vision, passion, all the writers, everyone at TVF who jammed with us, people we screened the show for and took opinion from. So it's an effort of everyone, and that is the reason it is. Plus the audience who have loved it and have waited to season 2 kab aayega for years.
Right. Yeah. That's so lovely. It was a lovely conversation with you, and there's a lot of inspiration, obviously, from even though people waited 7 years for this and just enjoyed it. That's a big deal to crack. Yeah. So thanks a lot, Shubham, again for joining, and have a great day.